Welcome, everyone, to the Logical Logistics Tech for Toastmasters training. Now, today we have a new innovative software that is built on the world's most popular platform, WordPress. I can't go into the details, and if I could, would need to have David here to explain, because I mean, after all, he created it. If anyone knows about what it's about, it would be him. It's user friendly. It's here to help take your experience to another level, but also make it easier for persons like me who are Windows babies and really can't do the DOS back prompt as easy point and click generation after all. Based on that, he's here to show us how to use it. But it's not only for Toastmasters. It can be used for so much more. And he's going to explain how we go about customizing that. David Carr, let's hear about Toastmost.org.
All right. Thank you, Jody. So I did not create WordPress. WordPress is this thing that is pre-existing, and that's part of the beauty of it, is that I am able to add some polish on top, some Toastmasters features on top of a widely used piece of software. Now, it may be that some of you have never heard or barely heard of WordPress before. I mean, if you were in IT or if you were in digital marketing, you would know WordPress, at least by reputation, if not having used it on your own projects. It is the world's most popular website software for organizing websites. It was created by bloggers for bloggers to make it easier for them to focus on creating content for the web and publishing it, rather than focusing on the technical details, at least not all the time. And so it has some features. I mean, I sometimes used to say that it was, don't be intimidated. It's just a glorified web-based word processor, which is sort of true, but there are elaborations beyond that in terms of how you work with it, how you create a really great looking WordPress website. And in particular, I've been working on how do we make the branding conform to Toastmasters International Standards, so you don't get these nasty emails or calls or people telling you that you're in violation of some Toastmasters standing. Those aren't the colors we're supposed to use on a Toastmasters website. Well, this kind of steers you towards the colors that you're supposed to use on a Toastmasters website, at least as the defaults. And it has features built in so that it's not just your marketing website, it's also your agenda management website. Now, it's not the default. The thing that Toastmasters International makes available to use for free is called Free Toast Host. And there's another piece of software some of you have experience with called Easy Speak, which is more of the functional back office for organizing your agendas. I'm trying to tackle a little bit of both so that you can have one website that projects a strong image to the rest of the world, and also is your functional website for managing your agenda, recruiting people, signing up and registering guests. I'm going to show you a bunch of different things that you can do with a WordPress website that hopefully you're going to find of interest. So rather than speaking about it entirely in the abstract, I'm going to show you a little demo of how the marketing and the functional side fit together. Now, it's a recorded demo. I'm going to get a little bit more adventurous later on and show you stuff live where there's a chance for stuff to go wrong. And sometime during this block of training, there's going to be something that I'm going to say, why did it do that? Or why did it not do that? There's probably going to be something that will not work exactly the way I expect it to during the next hour. Because I'm always tinkering with it. I'm always trying to make it better. I'm always getting feedback. But still, I want to show you, first of all, kind of the way that it ideally works and how those halves of the marketing and the functional fit together. So here we go. So there's going to be a video that comes along here. Hopefully you're seeing a slide. And now we're going to see the experience of coming to the Online Presenters website. So this is a club that I led to charter back in 2017. Has a lot of great workshops that are available on the website and through the blog. So when people come there, hopefully they're impressed. They're impressed enough that they want to fill out the guest registration form. So we ask people to register first and tell us a little bit about themselves before they come to our meeting. So we don't just put the Zoom link out there publicly. We ask people to register first, and that also gives our VP of membership essentially a lead, that they know that this person is interested or was interested. So even if they don't show up at the meeting that they signed up for, we can follow up for them. When they register, they get an email confirmation message. It also, tries to send them the right code to easily add that to their calendar. And the idea is they're going to come to our meeting and they're going to be so impressed by what a wonderful club it is that they decide that they want to join. Well, we also have an online application form. I hate PDFs. Toastmasters International kind of runs on PDFs that they want you to pass around. Send people, if you want to do something online, send people a PDF of the application form. Well, I have gotten Toastmasters International to accept this as a valid application. It includes all the same language. You sign it by typing your name, and it gets emailed off to the VP of membership. You can have payment integration built in, so that as soon as somebody registers, they get a prompt to please pay. They can pay with their credit card, and they're off to the races pretty much. There's also a process where the VP of membership goes in and approves that application and gives the person an account on the site. So here we've turned around and now I'm a member of the club. So I can come into the agenda and I can click to accept a role, which is obviously one of the things we want to do. You might notice that there's also a little, would you like to sign up for the next meeting thing? So we're trying to keep people in the process of signing up for roles for future meetings. Doesn't always work, but we give them the opportunity. I can also, if I'm the meeting organizer, I can either assign somebody else to a role, or I can suggest that somebody else take a role. And when I do that, I can see when's the last time they served in this particular role. So I can nominate the person to speak who hasn't spoken in a while, or to fill some other supporting role who hasn't done it in a while. So there's a lot of intelligence that we try and build in here in terms of keeping track of what people have done before and making sure that we sign them up for the appropriate things. We do have all the pathways projects in the system so that we can have the correct times loaded in. So depending on the path that they choose, the projects in that path are displayed, that path and that level. And we have an online evaluation form. Well, this is sort of the same thing. I said I don't like PDFs. You can email PDFs back and forth. So somebody gets your evaluation form as a PDF. They print it out. They scan it and send it back. I mean, that's a lot of unnecessary work to my mind. So this is a web-based version of the forms that I've managed to create. And I think we have them for just about every project. if you come across one where it doesn't load properly, you can let me know and we'll try and add it. Actually, it's not shown here, but one of my clubs has a number of English as a second language speakers. So we have some additional prompts that can open up for the person who's speaking English as a second language to get feedback on how their pronunciation was and so forth. Let's say this is something that came up for doing voting during the course of a meeting, and I can actually show you this live in a few moments. But the idea here was we can copy and paste. So this is particularly for online meetings. We can copy and paste into the Zoom chat, and people can click there to register their votes. So now I'm in the role of the person who is voting on best table topics. And as the vote counter, I'll be able to see as the votes start to roll in. I have an even more elaborate version of this that's for doing contests, where each judge gets a coded link that allows them to fill out a digital ballot. And then the chief judge can be watching as the votes come in. So I'm just trying to give you a sense of some of the possibilities. Really, a lot of this comes out of the fact that I've been heavily involved with one of the online clubs. I'm involved in a hybrid club now as well. And so I've spent a lot of time rethinking how these things ought to work in this new world. And so I think that might be the end of my demo stuff here. Yeah, let me move on. So I mentioned that WordPress is not something just for Toastmasters. And so that's the beauty of it, is that you can take this and you can use this for your small business or a nonprofit or a lot of different things. You can take the skills that you learn through Toastmasters and use them professionally, which is kind of what we look for in a Toastmasters experience to be learning. So just as we take our speaking skills on the road. So these are some of the different professional websites that run with WordPress under the covers. Now, these are very different in terms of polish from what your club website is going to be. They've had $1 million designs done by $1 million designers to make the fonts and the graphics be just so, but it has the power built into it to do all that. There is this is an idea of some of the, even just the free themes that have been released by the WordPress organization over the years, but a lot of them are created by independent designers as well. And one of the virtues too is that this has grown up in the era where we've been moving from doing everything on our computers to doing a lot more computing on our phones. And so WordPress sites reformat well. If you look at your free Toast host website on your phone, you're probably going to see some squished images or things that don't fit on the page. WordPress, you can do things badly and frustrate these virtues, but WordPress has a lot of built-in functionality that helps you present something well on the phone with the images resized properly, the pages reformatted to fit on that mobile screen. These are examples of some of the designs that I've customized for Toastmasters use and run by the Toastmasters branding police to make sure that they won't get you in trouble. Just examples of some different designs of different club websites. So there's a fair amount of variety that can be built in here. And one of the things that I've always thought was important is to think about the linkages between social media and email and your website. And so this is an example I've been using for years. The website doesn't even look quite like that anymore, but when somebody wins a contest, you can have that as a blog on your website, and you can then cross promote that on social media. And what you cross promote on social media can have a link back to your website. So, you go out to social media to try and kind of meet people where they are and bring them back to your website where they can learn more about your club, where they can sign up to be a guest, they can find out a lot more, and ultimately you can enroll them as a member. That would be among your goals, as well as to celebrate the fact that somebody won a prize and we're proud of them. All right. I'll take a breath and ask if there are burning questions so far. If anybody wants to ask a quick question now, I mean, we'll have more time for questions as we go along, but anything immediately that I blew back past, way too fast and ought to take time to explain.
All right, I do see a question in the chat. Nick, would you like to unmute and ask it yourself so you can do the explanation?
Yes. Thank you, Joni. And by the way, you're invited to visit our club anytime. It seems to me, Ismail's right. I've tried Chrome, I've tried Edge. My native browser is Safari. But when I try to put a picture or featured image or anything on a page, and I think I know the concept of aspect ratio and of scaling and doing that kind of thing, but I either get something that looks like a thumbnail or something huge that takes up most of the page, and the pixels are the size of basketballs. So I don't know whether it's in the way I'm doing the graphics or the template that I'm using or the theme or what it is, but I've been really frustrated by dealing with images.
So I'm sorry, do you have a website on Toastmost or not? Or
I do. It hasn't been linked to Toastmasters International yet, but I've been trying to make it presentable for months, and my club members have mixed feelings about it, and I know it's because of what I'm doing. But
okay, all right,
yeah.
let's just take a break then. Let me talk about basics of publishing to WordPress. So I'm going to go to my demo site here. And so I'm logged in. I don't know if everybody can see this, but there's a black bar across the top that has a number of options. And one of them is new. So if I want to create a new post, which is a blog post. So a blog post is typically more of a newsier item, whereas a page would be one of the major categories on your site, your home page, your calendar page, your featured members page, that kind of thing. Whereas if you were creating an announcement about somebody winning a contest, you'd probably create a blog post. I mean, the editor looks pretty much the same for both of those. But let's see, I'm gonna, and this shouldn't have much to do with whether you're on Safari or Firefox or anything like that. It should be pretty consistent across all of them. So if I type in my title and I just start typing text, always fun to watch people type. If I just start typing, I'm inserting paragraphs. But WordPress has this concept of blocks that I'll talk more about, but just different blocks of content can have different properties associated with them. So an image is a particular kind of WordPress block. So one of the basic things that you would want to do if you're setting up your home page is add an image, and you can upload something from your computer. And let's say, all right. It's from a cooking website I was working on. So this comes in and now we've got a full size image. And so I'll just publish that. We'll look at what we have so far on the website. So here's the title, a little bit of text, and here's the image. And that's, it's very, very large. So I decide that I want to use a smaller version of it. But what I can do is if I click on this image and this gear icon in the upper right-hand corner, let's see if I can make this a little bit larger. There's a gear icon here that displays the properties of that image. So one of the properties is, do I want to show this full size or do I want to show it as a medium size version or a little thumbnail? So thumbnails are always squared off. So when you upload something, WordPress actually creates a few different versions of it, and you can customize further from there. If I want to center this, so there's this little floating bar above the image that gives me some options for centering it or aligning it over to the right side of the page or the left side of the page, or just leaving it sort of in the normal flow of the page. So those are all adjustments that we can make in this image size. And actually over in the the sidebar that has the properties for the image block, there are some other adjustments I can make. I can say I want this to be 75% of what it's showing, or 50%, or 25%. So I'm still using the same image. I'm actually just adding a little bit of formatting commands to make it appear smaller. So if I went back to the full size image, again, we could get something between sort of the default full size and the default medium. I think also, see, in some of these formats, there's an option to make it even wider. It depends somewhat on what the size of the original image was. Well, while I'm in here, let me just show you something else that I always love to show people, which is how easily you can embed a video in here. And look for Angela Heath contest. Let's see if I can find. Okay. This is my friend Angela Heath, who just won the international placement for well, we get an ad popping up if we try to watch it on YouTube. But if you ever want to include a video in a page or a post, you can just copy and paste that link from the top of YouTube. And if I paste it into my page or my blog post, it automatically inserts the YouTube player code to embed that in the page. So I can update this and go out and view it. And now I have that embedded video in my page over my image and my other content. So I'm going to stop there just so that I can get through some other elements of the presentation. We'll spend maybe some more time on some of those basics, as well as how that translates into working with the agenda, where the agenda items are also treated as a kind of WordPress content block. Okay, so we'll get back to that. That's a whole specialized area. Andy, I saw you had a hand up a moment ago. Did you have something that you wanted to stop me for?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, in certain platforms, like if you're talking about the iPhone versus Android, in the Apple format, they have what they call a migration program that allows you to strip all the material you had on your Android phone and move it over to the Apple phone. Since a lot of people are on Free Toast Host, is there any migration tool to help you strip out all the information you've invested your time in doing a Free Toast Host and moving it into this program?
Well, yeah. Remember, Andy, I am doing this in my spare time. I, there is a little bit of a business aspect of it too, where I'm trying to take some of what I've developed for Toastmasters and sell it to other audiences for more money. But I did write a sort of an import script at one point, but I think they changed some things on Free Toast Host and it doesn't work anymore. Yeah, if I had more technical cooperation with the people who run that platform, I'm sure it would be possible to do more. You can do a certain amount just through copy and paste from one to the other, in terms of your marketing content on the other site.
Can you take the CVS files that you have for like membership and import it directly into this so that you don't have to retype every name?
Well, you can go into Club Central,
Right.
you can download. I'll show a screenshot of that in a moment. You can download the membership roster of your official enrolled members, and you can import that into a Free Toast Host site. Excuse me, into a Toastmost site, and it will create user accounts for all those people, and it will send them a link to set their password. So that, that's not going to give you all their speech history or whatever. You may want to do something else to kind of archive that. And actually, I don't think Free Toast Host has like a CSV export. Not the last time I looked at it. I was trying to do some kind of copy and paste from reports you could run on your site. Anyways, I don't want to get too far off track here.
Okay.
So I'm going to go back to my presentation to at least kind of finish up that section. This is what we were just talking about. So there is a screen in the administrator's dashboard that you can go to, and you can add member accounts one at a time, but you can also get the export from Excel or export to Excel, or what's called a CSV file, comma separated values, which is basically just an export of your membership roster. You can get that out of Club Central. And on the right where it says batch import from Toastmasters.org.spreadsheet, that's where you're importing that whole list. And everybody will get a message like this saying you've been registered at this website. Please log in here. Here's your default username. You can set your password. And then they can start to interact in terms of signing up for roles and so forth. Now, when I guess the burden of being the administrator of one of these sites is you're going to get a kind of a long, complicated dashboard view of everything that you can do with WordPress or with my extensions to WordPress. I do want to let you know that the basic member doesn't necessarily see all that overwhelming complexity. They basically see a simplified dashboard that gives them access to a few places where they can see their past speeches that have been recorded through the agenda. They can see their own profile, edit their own profile, change their password, change their profile picture, and so forth. You as the administrator get a more fleshed out agenda that gives you access to edit meeting templates, create blog posts. Now, you may want to give some members who, for example, there is a create a good blog pathways project where you're supposed to create a blog and talk about your process of creating that blog as your speech. So you can invite people in to post to the blog, and that can be something that creates another little increment of content on your website. Everything that you create on your website is something for Google to index, is a way for people to find their way to your club. And so, I have blog posts that I put out there sometimes years ago about how to video record speeches and share them, even with people who are shy and don't necessarily want to become YouTube stars. You can so some of this content from years ago continues to draw people into some of these websites. And so anything where your members can share their expertise through a blog post, and they may do it through a speech as well, but that's an opportunity for you to create content that makes your site appear more prominently in search listings of people who are looking for public speaking training or specifically looking for Toastmasters. So you may want to invite people not necessarily to get access to all the administrative functions, but to have the opportunity to post to the blog. So there's different security levels. There's the administrator who can do anything. There's an editor. There's an author who can publish their own stuff to the blog. There's a contributor level, which is I can post something to the blog, except I can't actually publish it. Somebody else has to review it and publish it for me. So that's sort of a little bit of a guardrails thing where you'd like to invite somebody, but you want to take a good look at it first to make sure that it's nothing that's going to embarrass your club. When you set up the site, there is this concept of a wizard on the site that tries to walk you through, sort of like if you've ever used a program like TurboTax, it tries to, guide you through. And maybe I don't know if that's too much of an American reference, but if
QuickBooks.
for some of you who have income tax, walking you through depending on how much you made, here are the things you have to calculate, or the system helps calculate them for it. So try and walk you through the process of setting up your website. And we do also send out these email reminders of, here are some additional things that you might want to do. You haven't set up online payments yet. Here's a link to a help article about how you can do that. So I think the thing that people sometimes get overwhelmed by is that there are so many options, and they don't know how to learn it all. Well, you don't have to learn it all at once. I think, first of all, concentrate on creating a nice homepage for your club, and maybe working on the agenda for your club so that you have a nice digital agenda where it's easy for people to sign up. Concentrate on those basics first before you worry about everything else. And then just knock out those other things a step at a time. And this is actually some of the most of the people coming to the Online Presenters website go straight to the home page, but we do have this blog post about how to start your slides more smoothly in Zoom that people come in and look at. So different blog posts, different workshops are things that are still drawing in visitors to the website a long time after they were first published. So you want things like that become magnets for your site. And this is some of that same data. This is looking at what kinds of things were people searching for when they found their way over to our website. a Toastmost website is not free. Now, technically, I give away the software for free. So you can go to the WordPress.org repository and you can get a free copy of the software, but you still will wind up paying somebody to host that on your behalf. And the advantage of the Toastmost service is that it's pre-configured for you. Should be easier to use. And I deal with some of the back-end techie details so that you don't have to. So I'm sorry, the screen says it's free for 6 months. It's actually free for 3 months currently. And so you have a time period where you can come in, kick the tires, test it out, show it to a couple of other people, hopefully get to a point where you're showing people something that they're impressed by. And then if you decide to go forward, you can pay the money. And I should have some people here a little bit later who are going to talk about their websites and why they found it to be worthwhile. Let's see. And we will go to questions. I just did want to take a moment here to stop and talk about templates and blocks as fundamental concepts. So when you have your agenda, there is a template that just defines how you typically run your meetings. Now, maybe some of your clubs, there is no typical. Everyone's completely different. But most of you probably have an order that you follow. First we do table topics, then we take a 5-minute break, and then we do speeches, and then we do evaluations, or you mix them up in a different order. Now, the specific names of the speakers change from week to week, and that's taken care of by the software. But the kind of the model for it is the template. So I tell people to think of it as being like the template is the cookie cutter. You don't want to bite into the cookie cutter. You want to stamp out nice little cookies, decorate them differently, and those are the things that you eat, that you serve to people. So for your agenda is a calendar post within the system. My calendar plugin is called RSVP Maker, so you'll see some references to that. Things will be RSVP this or RSVP that. So an agenda is a calendar post or a calendar event for a specific week, or whenever your meetings occur, for a specific date. Now, related to that is the event template. And you can always go back and change the event template and update all your future events. But you can also change the specific meeting, the specific event, the specific agenda. You can change that independently. Just like you don't have to go back and rebend the cookie cutter into a different shape in order to put googly eyes on your gingerbread man. Right, so you can customize things differently. Common example is maybe we normally structure our meeting with 3 speakers, but on a particular week we know that the area director is visiting, so we're going to pare it back to 2 speakers and 2 evaluators and a block of time for the area director to speak. So that would be a typical variation where you might want to edit that specific event independently of the template. And then blocks, I've already talked about a little bit, are just the notion is just they're building blocks of your website. So we have calendar block, or rather paragraph blocks are sort of the default. But beyond that, we can have formatting blocks, like we can break things up into columns instead of just presenting it as a linear text. We can have images, we can have videos, and in your agendas, we have roles and we have notes about the structure of the the meeting. I mean, I'm going to go into that stuff in detail in a little bit, but I just want to try and talk through it conceptually first. All right. So once again, I'm going to get out of the screen sharing and allow people to ask some questions before they get more confused than they already are. Because I go into this saying I'm going to show people how simple it is, and then I talk about all the complexities, and sometimes I scare folks off. So I'm trying to do well.
I'm assuming that you'll be showing the blocking and later on
For
on what you just spoke on.
right, yeah, I'm gonna go to it in more detail. Yeah, and I mean, Joni's given me this big block of time where the concept is we're gonna take our time and we're gonna make sure that we go through this stuff thoroughly. And I would love to come away from this with some people who not only adopt it for their own club, but feel comfortable doing a training for others too about why this is worthwhile and how to do it. I'm getting slightly beyond the point of being a one-man show because I have this woman, Lonnie, who is a professional web developer who has contributed some code, has critiqued some things, has helped me out. She might have been here today, but she had another commitment. So anyways, I'm gonna I don't want to go too long at all without asking for questions, but if there's no further questions, I'm gonna I think I might next go through a few slides about what to put on your website. Actually, there is one other thing. Let me just show you a couple of live sites just to give you some more idea. So this is just a demo site that I have. But if we look at online presenters, I mean, I talked about having so there's Angela's speech on the homepage. Here are some of the workshops that we've held over time that we and actually we're doing one in just a couple of weeks on the future of online clubs and where online clubs fit into the organization. And I hope we get some of you too. But you'll see sort of a family resemblance between that site and this site. It's the menus in a slightly different location. But this was actually the original WordPress for Toastmasters site for my home club. But using somewhat the same approach here. And here we're trying to emphasize the fact that we have this hybrid option that we're doing now. But just to show you that the sites can look quite a bit different, this is Tragic Comedy Toastmasters. And this gentleman, I hope, is going to be here on the hour to show us through his site. But you can see that it's just a different format, the idea of a big dramatic image up top, and the other pages can have a big featured image too, or they can just get straight to the content. And one other thing I wanted to show, I think I'm sharing my whole screen so you'll be able to see this. This is approximately, this is approximately how the online presenters site would look on your phone. And again, if you look at a free Toast site on your phone, it probably is not going to look so great. But this content here is presented as columns, 2 columns side by side on the desktop version of the site, but it just automatically reformats to be one after the other when you're viewing it on your phone. And something that I see a lot on not just free Toast sites, I see a lot on a lot of websites is that somebody will have tried to resize an image and they'll wind up with it squished. So So the person looks like, they've been run over by a steamroller or something. They'd be squished side to side, or worse, it'll be stretched. So they look fatter than they are in real life. And so people do make those mistakes. What I was talking about with the way WordPress handles images is it kind of resizes them automatically for you a little bit. And it does resize them proportionately, just in terms of you putting them into your layout. And it also resizes them for viewing on a mobile phone. All right. Now, I did an article for the Toastmasters magazine a little while ago. And naturally, in that context, I had to talk a little bit more about general principles as opposed to just blowing my own horn and talking about Toastmost. So let me just go through some ideas about what you should be featuring on your website, and maybe a little bit of what not to be featuring on your website too. So this is how to make your club website a good marketing and recruiting asset. So one thing I always say is you need to appeal to the uninitiated. Don't assume that people understand what Toastmasters is. A lot of people have no idea what Toastmasters is, or if they've heard about it, they think like it sounds like a horribly boring thing where people get together and give each other PowerPoint presentations. Well, I'm guilty at the moment. Don't assume that they know what you're talking about when you say table topics. So if you use the phrase like table topics impromptu speaking practice or table topics impromptu speaking contest, then you're putting it more in context. So, table topics is kind of our branding of it, but I wouldn't assume that anybody outside of Toastmasters knows what the heck table topics is. And they probably don't know, you certainly don't want to be using abbreviations, even like DTM, without explaining what that is, particularly on your homepage. I mean, if there are other pages that are more for the insiders, that's maybe different, but think about the fact that you need to spell out the basics, and particularly spell out where, when, and how do you meet. In these days, talking about online and hybrid, or distinguishing your club by saying, we're not doing that hybrid stuff. We've gotten back to 100% in person. If you'd like 100% in person Toastmasters experience, come see our club. But tell people how you do things, why you do them the way you do, and how does one visit as a guest? How can one come and be part of this? So if they need to register first, if they need to get on Zoom, or if there's some complexity about finding the meeting room at the municipal complex, my morning club meets upstairs in an ice skating rink, and you have to go all the way down the hall. So we have a map on the website that not only shows how to get to the building, but how to find your way down the hall and find the actual meeting room. And think mobile first. It's a huge deal. The people who are looking things up are very often doing it on their phone. I wonder if there's a Toastmasters club in this area. Or, gee, I really need to do something about my public speaking and making it better. I wonder what kind of organization can help me out. So think about the fact that they might be sitting in a restaurant or a bar looking this up, or stuck in traffic and looking things up on their phone. Let's see, I think this was, I looked up Toastmasters International just to see how much of the traffic to their website was coming in over the mobile web. So about half of it. Brand yourself. What makes your club special? I think this is so important, particularly in this era of online and hybrid clubs, because when you're running a local club, people largely choose you based on where and when you meet. How convenient is it to them? And timing certainly still important when you're online, but one of the trade-offs of going to online or going to hybrid and saying, wow, this means we can recruit from people all over the world. Well, that also means you're in competition with every other Toastmasters club that's saying, wow, we can compete with people all over the world. So what makes your club special? Why should they come to you versus somebody else? And it's not that it's cutthroat competition with the other clubs, but by making it clear what it is that your club does different, you can help those people also find what is right for them, what personality is right of club is right for them. I say learn the basics of search engine optimization. Not so much that there are people who do nothing but try and figure out how to make Google more likely to index a website. I'm not saying that you should try and become a search engine professional or anything like that, but think about the words that you put in your headlines and try and structure your page. Things like subheadings within an article are actually a roadmap to Google and other search engine about what's important within that article. And so if you think about putting the keywords that people might be searching for when they're looking for your kind of club, say you're doing a club that has a focus on stand-up comedy. Well, think about the keywords associated with that. Again, I'm not saying you need to run out and buy professional tools or services that help you identify those keywords, but just thinking about it and structuring your page, using things like bullet lists or numbered lists for procedures can also help organize your website in a way that makes it comprehensible to a machine that's trying to divine human intent in terms of what words you enter into the search box, what site matches that in terms of your intent, what you would want to see. Let's say. And then I talked about this a little bit before, adding depth to your website. So if there's somebody in your club who has an expertise, if you can get them to contribute a blog, or you can record them giving a speech and maybe just have that with a headline and a little bit of text for the search engines to index, have them giving a speech about their area of expertise, that may bring people into your site. It's certainly going to make you look more interesting. And if you've hosted workshops, that grid of workshops that you can look at to see what this club has done that's special is something that I use on both of the websites that I manage. And it's good to have some variety in fonts. I see a lot of free Toast sites that are lots of different fonts and lots of different colors, and often they clash. There's this concept that goes back to the advent of desktop publishing. They talk about ransom note typography, where people would go wild and use every possible font that was on their Mac in the layout of a brochure or something. Think in terms of simplicity and clarity and readability more than you think about going wild with things. Now, if you use a special effect and it's effective, that's different. But use these things sparingly. It's the same sort of thing you should think about when you are considering whether to use visuals or props in a speech. All right. So that's the end of my sermon about what to put on your site. We'll get a little bit more into the details of how to do it in just a moment. I'll pause once again for any questions.
You had a section about the reports where you showed us the reports that were generated from the site or that you could pull. Right? How do those reports that you showed earlier assist with the learning of the basics of search engine optimization?
Well, I mean, some of it is just seeing what works. I mean, let's maybe look at that again for just a moment. Let's look at the real website and see what it's telling me as of today. I'm not sure what it's going to be telling me. So I have this plugin called Jetpack that gives me some basic stats. And there's lots more elaborate ways of doing this. But this will give me some basics about patterns of traffic to the website. So I can see the days where we had more traffic. And I can see, maybe make this a little bit larger. So these are people who came to the home page. These are people who are looking at the workshop that we're advertising on the future of online Toastmasters. And then there are some people looking at older content. And we can see that that was just people who are looking at it today. Let's look at a day. See if I can go back and look at a day where we had more traffic. Let's see. That load. I think this is supposed to allow me to go back and look at. Yes. Well, now I can look at today versus yesterday. So we can see that yesterday there was a slightly different mix of things that people were coming in to look at. For some reason, I'm having trouble going back to a specific event. I know it says I can see more details over here. Let's see. I'm probably spending more time on this than it's worth, but you know, some of what you can. So okay, so this is probably around the time that one of our club members won the contest for video speech contest, which is something that members of online clubs who are not in a district can participate in. So I think when our member won that, we got an influx of people coming to check out the club, which is great. Let's see. And actually, I should take a break because Joseph Essler is here. Hey, Joseph.
Hey, David. Great to be here.
I had invited Joseph to do a little bit of show and tell of his website, of how he developed it, and talk about the process that he went through in learning this stuff. I think you mentioned that you had a little bit of previous WordPress experience from some other project. But if you could, Joni, if we can give him co-host.
Already done.
All right.
Perfect.
If you could please share with us, Joseph, and just talk through us a little bit about tell people about the club, the nature of the club, and where the website fits in with how you've been promoting it and making it successful.
Sure thing. Thank you, David. Pleasure to be here. Tragic Comedy Toastmasters is the club which I established to complete my DTM. This website was the key piece, I feel, in that whole process, from getting people as guests to getting members to ultimately getting club officers and finding my own personal successor as club president. I had, as David mentioned before, done other websites through Toastmasters, free Toasthost, obviously. That's the easiest one to do by default. And then I was a district webmaster where we used Joomla. Played around with WordPress a little bit here and there for other projects for school, and then got involved with creating this Tragic Comedy Toastmasters website. Wanted something different to separate my club from all other clubs. And this was that key piece. People, when they think about doing Toastmasters, they don't think that the website is mission critical, but it has saved me so much time with all the features that it has to be able to have all my club members become self-sufficient. Let's take a look at it. I'll share my screen right now. And we all know that this is how people find us still. They go here and do the Find a Club page, and they'll see my club here, which just so happens to be in the area of Cambridge, along with being listed here as an online club. They'll go and click on my Tragic Comedy Toastmasters listing. Some people will join the Zoom link right away. Some might call us or text. Some might click the contact button, but most people are going to click right here and then go to the club website. And then they see this landing page. It's just so beautiful in my mind compared to the other options available. We are Tragic Comedy Toastmasters, where tragedy meets comedy. You can fully customize that. And then we have this image here in keeping with what we do. We have a lot of stamp comedians where that's a microphone representing that. And then you can scroll down as a guest to see some pictures here of us being silly. As you go down, you'll see some options for some meetings to RSVP now. Some people might not be sold right yet. They'll want to see some more information, learn more about us, how we're a thespian club with a focus on dramatic arts. Then they'll see all of our accolades here. David has made this so easy to do. You could just edit the page and then scroll down on any page. And it's just all right there. You could type in, and we just had our Club Mentor of the Year become the district winner of that award for Club Mentor of the Year. And I just added him here. And then we have a cute little video here, which I'll show you just a few seconds of it. So it was so easy to add this. I just uploaded the video and then pasted it right in this section. And we're going to do more like that. Right now, it's pretty much information rich with pictures, but our next big project for people who are guests and newer members is to look at some of these menu items here, especially the role descriptions, which you can click on right there. You can click on individual ones here. There are so many ways to click around. So we're thinking about doing, say, table topics participant. That is the first one that most guests will do. We'll add a video here to just explain that. And if people want, they can go and look at all the other ways to practice impromptu speaking. I just copy this URL when we have a guest who's thinking about visiting our club, and I send them that to give them an explanation of what table topics is. They can look at this link here. Whose line is it anyway? That's improv games. That's how we do our club, being tragic comedy. And then they could purchase these materials here, which we directly link to the Toastmasters store to get more practice. And we have some people who do that. We have somebody who's newer who is killing it because he did all of these things. And we're going to have him do the video. We're going to have different members do different roles. And it's going to become even more media rich. But right now we have that solid foundation. So if you were to just go to the homepage, think about RSVPing, that button sticks out right here, plain as day, RSVP. And in case you're wondering, have a spreadsheet here where I look through all the metrics, and we just scroll over here on how people heard about us. Early on, we started a little over a year ago. It was mostly the Find a Club page on the Toastmasters International website. But as you scroll down, you see more and more we're getting the club website for people who are hearing about us that way. To the point where towards the bottom, it's almost exclusively the club website. And then we have some word of mouth. So we get more and more members, and then we get word of mouth, people I know and people other people know. But for the most part, if it's not somebody you know, it's generally the club website. So we could go ahead and type in here. Let's see, Rachel is one who came recently. Was going to come recently. And we'll just type in her name here, just to give you an example. I don't remember her email or phone, but then we added this so that people can add their gender pronouns. She did, she, her. And so a lot of people write a nice little note. They'll say, oh, I'm an experienced Toastmaster with a DTM, member of 3 clubs. Or they'll say, I'm brand new, getting my feet wet. I'm very nervous with doing public speaking. They'll consent here and hit submit. And then we'll get that email right here from that Rachel Gomez. With all of this information listed, our VPPR can easily get in touch with her and then add that person to the master spreadsheet I just showed you. And then the next feature would be to scroll up here as that VPPR or any member logged into the site and adding Rachel here to do table topics, along with sending that link that I mentioned. And she could look it up right here. We have so many different places. She could look it up right here and just click on that and see it right there. You can go here, click on it here. This is how it's so easy. We just make it foolproof. And you see this on the back end too, with the way David's designed it. When you're doing more administrative stuff, as I'll get into shortly, you can click so many different places to get to the same destination. Now, what if you have somebody who already is a member? They're not a guest. They're getting more established. They already have a user account. I'm not going to go through that. I imagine David already did that. They are looking to sign up for a role and get other people, perhaps in the case of being Toastmaster, that's what generally is the biggest role. They're getting other people to fill up the agenda. Let's look at how we do that on our website. So let's say next week here, you just go through it that way, or you can scroll down here. A lot of people will click on it here. There are so many different ways to get to that day, or you can look it up on the calendar over here. That's what a lot of people do. And even with the calendar, you have multiple options. You could just keep scrolling down, and you'll see the agenda, and you'll scroll down forever, and you'll see all the upcoming agendas. Or you can go over here to the calendar itself and then click on the specific day and see only that day. And then you'll see I'm the presiding officer. I'm the vice president of education. I have to go over a few things having to do with renewals. I'm filling in because our treasurer is out on vacation. And then we're going to have some people such as the Toastmaster Kunal is going over what he's going to do with his role. Let's pretend I'm Kunal for a second. He can add the theme here, and he will go ahead. You can see we have all these options where you can add announcements, first time guests, or we have a new member, Kat Langmead, who just joined. And then he could add the theme here as well. He could, let's say that we have fall coming up pretty soon. We'll go ahead and add fall. Okay. And then that will add the theme. And then we'll see that. And that is perhaps one little thing I have noticed. And this is a give and take, as David has made clear that could be a nice little feature to add only one. But he has so much on his plate. That's just a little thing. I'll work around that for now. All right. So we have that there. And then, all right, what am I going to do next as Toastmaster? Typically, I'm going to want to suggest roles to people. And then I'll follow up with an email to everybody. That's how I like to do it. Everybody has their own way. So I could suggest a role. And I used to fill this out with nominating somebody. It's very nice to have this text box here. You can send them a personalized message why you feel they'd be great for the role. But at this point, people, they know the roles and they just trust me. They're getting to be a little bit more experienced, and they just know I'm pinging them to do something. It's only a suggestion, and they could do anything that they want. So in this case, I could pick any member. And what's so cool about this, everybody, is you can see when they last did the role. You can see if they have another role, or you have somebody here who's listed as a planned absence. So you'll generally want to go with somebody who has nothing in parentheses next to them. And that's how we do it. I don't give it too much thought anymore. I just go through and pick a bunch of these whenever I'm Toastmaster. And as VPE, I train all of the mentors to train their mentees the same way. And then the club becomes fully self-sufficient. It's so easy for me to manage. I could just spend 20, 30 seconds on this to just double check it, to have peace of mind. And so in this case, I'll go ahead and I'll pretend I'm only going to send it to myself, which I already did in preparation for this. And here's the email. I think this might be blocking it. So I could see this here, and this is something David and I worked on to create this button to make it crystal clear, because not everybody's so tech savvy. It used to be just this, which was confusing to some members. But now it's just, even that one member, David, who had an issue before, she clicks on this right away every time I send it to her. And it's terrific. And then let's see here. Oh, we might have found a little bit of a bug, or maybe it was because I sent it. Who knows? We'll keep moving here. But generally, that does work really well and show that I'm signed up for the role. Next off, what would we do? We would want to send out the agenda, which is right up here. And I'm moving relatively fast in the interest of time, but I'm also very experienced with it. You'll get more experience with this as time goes on. At the very top is where I scrolled back up to of the agenda. This is on every agenda, where you can go and select email. And then what I like to do, I have a little canned thing that I already sent. So I'll go ahead and just pretend like I'm copying and pasting it right here, and then paste it right in there. And then typically I'll send it to myself to test it, which I feel is a best practice. And as you can see right here, that what I like to do, that's my own personal style. Everybody does it a little differently. I just talk about something positive, and then who's Toastmaster, what their theme is, as well as the word of the day, and then something personal at the end. And we have people all over the world. We just had somebody who joined from Australia, which is super exciting. We get to hear all these lovely different dialects. I'll go ahead and send that. And then here's what you'll get. You'll get that message right here. And then down here, you'll get to see the entire agenda. And see, this is something that's more typical with announcements. We just had a whole bunch of education achievements that we want to honor over the past year. And we just listed all those in the membership renewals here. And then a link to the Toastmasters Promise before they renew. All of that's made super easy through Toastmost. Normally, there would be a one-click here, but we have a full agenda because of this website. It's so easy to get a full agenda through the suggest feature. If there were any items that were not available, there would be a message here with a hyperlink to click on it that would say one-click sign up. So that's something that you would have if any roles were still open. But we're all full, and we're 3 weeks in a row doing that. Those are all the features as a regular club member. We've covered guest, club member. Now let's wrap up here with officer. We have a whole bunch of officers here. All of them listed with their email addresses, which are all Toastmost branded. That makes us look more professional rather than a bunch of school or Gmail addresses. And then that automatically forwards to whatever your individual email address is. Let's say we want to look at vice president membership. Just get a sense of what this role is. I just copied this from the TI website. I adapted it slightly. I have all these steps that you have to do for this officer role. I have everybody, for the most part, at least the senior officers, is partners in crime. So people work together. And that way people are in it and they're able to not always come to me or a club president. They'll have their first resource be their partner in crime. And then it's all clearly delineated here. Just if you were to edit this page, we could easily fix any kind of a typo. And it just looks pretty much the same. We could easily swap out some information. If the link's wrong or it needs to be updated, you can do that. That's the beauty of it. A lot of this hopefully will become outdated because word has it that TI is going to finally make it possible by the end of this year for members to be able to submit their own payments and applications directly on the toastmasters.org website. That's about time once that happens. Now, what else would there be that somebody with a club officer role would do? Let's click out of this. You click out edit mode just by clicking view page. Super simple. We normally would have our club officers do agendas. For the most part, it's been me, to some extent, our club president, and we're getting everybody well trained on that so that everybody's like a club president in that way, and a sort of a club webmaster, just in case somebody gets super busy. People can create a user account for a new member. It doesn't always have to be the VPM or the webmaster to do that. Let's take a look here at some custom agendas. Go back to the calendar. In this scenario here, for the most part, we have the agenda is, I had showed it to you. We'll take a look at this past weekend where we customize so much of it here based on a template where you see all the meeting roles, all those announcements. And then we like calling these presentations rather than just speeches, because people do stand-up comedy, films, music, so on and so forth. And that's why we use the more general term presenter. Then we have table topics here for people to sign up, as well as evaluations. And a recap here with the reports, which you can easily see if you wanted to go to show it in PDF format. And this is one of those other things that I've just been living with because it's a little cosmetic. Somehow there's a hanging indent here, but I've been working around that. And so we have here that agenda, which is beautiful. It has all the officers here, our club mission, along with the times, because times are so crucial here. Let me move that out of the way. I'm not sure if this is blocking you. Okay. And you see all the times here to the left. Now, how do we do all that? Let's look at a simpler version of the agenda just to make it easy, because this one is gigantic. Let's go back to one that was earlier in the month where we had a special meeting here last month. All right, we'll take a look at August 4th. We had a little bit of a field trip. I had something over summer school where we all went to my class, and we had to change a few things on this. Normally we have the other link that I showed you, which is Zoom link. This time we used a Linktree link. And you can see here that you can add these different items, which I'm sure Dave has already gone over to some extent. You have that one, which is a sign up note. You could just click on that and add it right in here. And then you can modify it. And then you could do what I did here where I added that link. I'm going to go ahead and remove that right now. And then I had something that I was working around where I had to create some duplicates, and then David eventually fixed that. And then we had duplicates, and then he fixed that. So now we have some custom code in that way here on our site. And so what we have here is, in this instance, we'll have the link so that people can join the virtual meeting, whether it's a Zoom link or a Linktree link. And then they can go here, and whoever's added an agenda. In this case, we just had a bunch of presentations for my school project where all we had was a presiding officer. We had a Toastmaster, a timer, and then we had the presentation. So we had none of the minor roles. And all you'd have to do if you want to get rid of them, just remove it right here. And then we are going to show next one that's going to be more of a special meeting. But that is how you edit it. And what you can do here, when you have a presenter, you could go right over here to the right and change the count. This time we had a half dozen. Typically, we only have 2. You can change that pretty easily. Let me show you another example of that with another meeting that's more of a regular meeting, but it was just a minor change that we had to make just recently. And then we'll wrap up with the mentorship workshop. That was completely custom code that I made right before this meeting. So it's all fresh in my head. All right. We have right here on the first. That was the meeting that was. So this was a special meeting where honorary officer did a Q&A. So we had fewer table topics. That's usually a quick fix that most people need to know how to do. For the most part, you're not going to have to know how to do what I just showed you. There's going to be a bit of time involved. It's quite a learning process to do that. And that's why I glossed over. I don't have enough time to do it justice. I'm sure that David has gone over that a bit already, or will, along with Lonnie.
Yeah, we're actually going to back up and do it.
Oh, great.
Yeah, but this is good because people can see it in terms of sort of practical impact.
Absolutely.
And this is also different from how I set it up for my own club.
Yeah. Yeah. We're all learning from each other here. Yeah. And so for this one, all I did was go to the RSVP for those table topics. And then as a best practice, what I recommend doing is creating a duplicate here. And that way you're not viewing and editing back and forth. That'll save you a little bit of time. And you could just go right here to the table topics where we had to reduce them. And you'll go and find it here. And I know exactly where it is. It's customer role. I call it table topics participant because we had a lot of newer folks. And I just want to differentiate that between table topics master and table topics participant, make it crystal clear. That's why I gave it the custom name. People were getting confused, but now they're not. So we had 6 originally. If you were to look at that here, this is how it will normally look. Let's refresh that. We'll scroll down. And we'll see here. And I thought about making it not available, but we have some people, again, who are not the most tech savvy. They might have accidentally edited it in some way or tried to, or just been confused by why is that there? And so I just made it crystal clear to folks where I had changed it from 6 to 3 right in here on the count. And that just makes it super easy. If I had to only deal with not available, that might have been something perhaps where I would have to deal with another one where it was just difficult. But this just was so easy to make that change. Something outside of this Toastmost platform. Toastmost makes it so easy to do stuff like that. And then, oh, lo and behold, we had this one person who wanted to join last minute as a guest. You saw I had 4 there originally. And then I went and just added her. I changed it to 4. And then I had already added her. And what's cool with Toastmost, even when you do that, it will keep that information so I could easily remove it or add it back in case I make a mistake. So Ritika did not get deleted as I was demoing this to you. So that's another handy feature about it. So many mechanisms in place to undo. And then you could go through the version history. All right, last off, let's take a look here at that agenda that I made for our upcoming mentorship meetings. And I'll hand it back to you, David. We have over here upcoming mentorship workshops. I'm going to, as the VP, give an introduction later this month. And then we're going to have one of our newer members who is killing it at table topics, He's going to be the one who will present this. He doesn't know it yet, I don't think, but he's going to, we're going to figure it out. Yeah. All right. How did I do all this? We're going to go over here and I see a super view because I'm an admin. Not everybody will necessarily see this view. And all I did was just click up here to the name of ours. You'll see a different name, whatever your club name is. And then we go down here to RSVP events. And then we'll go over to event templates. And then we will see over here that I have the one that was already created. What if I didn't create it though? All right, let's go ahead and add new right up here. That would be one way to do it. Another way that I like to typically do it is go over to here to event setup, and I'll see more of the features in this view before I see it in the edit view. Again, there's so many different ways to do this. I played around with different wordings. This was my original wording for special event mentorship meeting before I decided on the one I showed you earlier. And then you could pick whatever you want the start date to be. In our case, it's right over here. And then I changed the regular time. Usually our meeting times are an hour. I decided this should only be 30 minutes because we're only having one presenter, and then it might even be less. We'll have a Q&A at the end, and then we'll have an evaluation to ensure that OM gets speech credit for pathways. Last off, I like to set an end time, and then we're international. So I just err on the side of caution and choose the time zone that I'm based in, that everybody's going off of, which is Eastern time. And then you can go ahead and save those changes, which I already did. I'm not going to do it again. And then after you save it, you can go over to here to create update. And then you could look up that meeting right over here for the mentorship workshop. And you can click on the create update, and you'll see that there are so many different options down here. It's almost overwhelming unless you are more familiar with it as I am. We have 2 that are already scheduled. We have the one that I showed you earlier for the introduction. And then we also have the one for table topics participant. You could schedule them further down here. Let's say that these both go really well. We'll keep it going for another week. I'll go down to here. This is October 4th. I would go down to here to October 11th. And then I'll go and type a more specific name for it. I'll add timer to it. That would probably be the next most logical one to do. And then we can add update from the template. And voila, it has been created. Right, so it's right here now. Let's go ahead now and let's take a look at that template, and you'll see how simple it is. This is what I recommend doing. Starting simple if you haven't done so already. This one, if we were to look at the post first, and then best practices, I like to have the post there, and then we'll have the edit mode over here. And that way you can just have them side by side, and you can make updates and refresh it. So you look at this one here. This is for the template. You'll see that we have our Zoom link there. We're going to have a mentor run the workshop. We'll probably have our club president be the one to do that for me as the presenter. The very first day, I'll be the VP as the presenter. The club president will be the mentor, along with some announcements. We'll probably think of some stuff such as renewals, and then we'll have a timer. I always feel it's a best practice to have a timer. And that's something I've always done is I run a tight ship. Everybody else has started to do the same thing. Our meetings generally start and end on time because we time everything. If you look at our time and role description here, we have that carefully outlined, and then we're timing all of the typical things you would time along with all of the other things. We time all of these to keep them a minute or less. And that makes the meeting run very smoothly. All right, well, wrapping up here, what we have are these roles, which we can take a look at in the edit mode. Let's look at a specific event now, because we see the template right here. The difference is that you're going to update the template, and then you're going to make an instance of it for a specific date. Those are the 2 concepts. The template only updates what you can use for a specific day. It's not going to update every day automatically unless you use that tool, but you'll overwrite some of the changes if you made some specific updates to each one. So I would err on the side of caution before doing that. Make sure that you do want to update everything. Here we have this one specifically where this is, let's look at the day here for this workshop. We have coming up here on the 27th, which you can see now on that Tuesday. It's the introduction, and we can edit this event here. And you'll see all I did was change. We had presiding officer. I just changed that to mentor right here. And then I made sure it was a time limit of I accidentally scrolled down. It's time limit of 3 minutes that the person has to do the specific agenda note item here, which is to open the meeting, explain mentorship program, and introduce meeting roles. That is what the mentor will do. They're basically an all-in-one for how we're going to mentor people. They're going to be like a presiding officer, a Toastmaster, and an evaluator all in one. And so that's why it needs to be a more experienced member who can be a mentor, and then have this person, who's a little newer, who's venturing out to be the presenter that day, who will explain how to do table topics, then give an example of table topics, and then pretend to be table topics master with a few volunteers. That's the idea of this upcoming meeting that we're going to have. And this one in particular, actually, this is just going to be the introductory meeting. So I'll go over how we'll do that for table topics during that meeting. I'll also give examples of timer. And then long-term, we'll have over the next several weeks, we're going to do this once a week. That's what we're targeting. We'll go over Toastmaster, which is the ultimate one. And perhaps even more than that is general evaluator, where they're evaluating the Toastmaster and everybody involved. Because we do this through this calendar and this agenda platform that David has created. It's just made things super easy. It's asynchronous. We don't have to do things via email anymore. People can just go to this link and see this agenda. That pretty much, I feel, wraps it up here, David, as far as going from the being a guest to being a member to being an officer. I'm happy to ask any questions. And it looks like you're on mute. Maybe you have your own microphone. I do that same thing. I'll just hit the mute on my mic.
I just have one question.
Oh, sure.
Looking at your site, now I got my iPad on the other end. Looking at your site, we can add our icons, right? The Facebook, Instagram. I don't see those, but that can easily be added on.
Yeah, I removed a lot of stuff because I just like keeping it simple. Like I don't have the time for the presenter or the speaker role along with the pathways for all that. But that's what's so cool about this. It's customizable. And so you can do it through social media. I feel like this website platform is enough. So we have social media, we have an Instagram, but we're not using it. We just figured, wow, they just come here. This is the whole idea, is to get them to RSVP with us. And we're doing great. We're presence distinguished. We have 2 to 3 guests on average. That was 177 total different guests I showed you have come to our club, or at least reached out to us in the past year. And just the other week, we had a half a dozen. Our biggest week has been 9. So I think we're just fine with Toastmost.
Yeah, I think this is a great platform compared to some of the others that I've seen. And if we can customize it, as you say, there are a couple things I can already see that I would want to customize. I think it'd be great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much,
I
Joseph.
appreciate it.
Oh yeah, sure thing. My
Are you
pleasure.
guys hearing
Back to
me
you,
now?
David.
I apparently did hit a button on the microphone, but I feel like Joseph in some ways has probably done more things and better things in some ways with this setup than I have. So I've got to work on catching up. But I'm a little bit jealous when he says he sends out the suggestion and people just immediately sign up, because sometimes my people don't do that.
It took a little while. I trained them well, though.
Yeah. He talked about some of the things in a number of contexts. When you email out one of those suggested roles, or you email out the whole agenda, there will be these one-click sign-up links, so that, even if somebody, not necessarily that they don't remember their password, but they might be viewing it on their phone, and being able to do it quickly is better for getting them to do it at all. So I apologize if some people may have felt a little bit lost in there at some point, because I actually haven't gone over the how to edit the agenda basics, and he's going into detail about how he customized it. But I think it's also a good thing, because you saw how practically he used it to be able to offer custom experiences, to have special meetings that have their own customized agenda, and to do it through this framework. I don't know whether we should take a break in case people need to have a bio break or get a drink of water or something. Why don't we allow a 5-minute break? I don't want to lose people, but if you can somebody time for 5 minutes? All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. We just got a deep dive into one particular web club webmaster's experience using the platform. I don't want people to be overwhelmed with the amount of detail that he covered, but what I hope to be able to show you are some of the details of how you get started. I'm going to take a few minutes to go over the agenda editing, because we saw a lot of that just now. And I want you to get a sense of how that works. Before that, I do that, I was just going to drop in the chat an example of voting in an online meeting. A lot of people do it just by sending a private chat message, which more or less works. But I just dropped a vote for speaker item in the chat. So you can try that and click on this, just a fictitious bake-off between a couple of people. Go ahead and vote when you get a chance. And then meanwhile, I'm going to show you a little bit about agendas. See, this is the vote counters tool where I set up that link that I just shared with you. So suppose I want to customize this particular meeting agenda. We'll go through this in a fair amount of detail as we go along. But there's a little warning up top that lets me know that I'm editing one event in a series defined by a template. And to make changes you can apply to all your meeting, the whole series, you can switch to this edit template mode. But suppose we just want to make changes to one specific meeting. Well, there's this concept of blocks that I've talked about. So we have paragraph blocks, we have heading blocks, we have image blocks, and then in an agenda, we have these blocks defining roles on the agenda. So this is Toastmaster of the day is one of the standard roles built in here. And hopefully you can see that when I have this block selected, we have the blue border around it to show me that it's selected. On the right-hand side, I see my options for that. So the option is I've chosen Toastmaster of the day from the list of standard roles. I could also choose a custom role, but it's Toastmaster of the day. We only have one Toastmaster of the day. And when he's introduced, the Toastmaster of the day here is being allowed 4 minutes on the agenda. And there's a little explanatory note about this is the person who introduces the supporting roles and leads the whole meeting. Now, if I scroll down to speaker, again, this is going to be a standard role, but we can select that we have 2 speakers in a meeting and that we allow them this much time on the agenda. So I can change from 2 to 3, and 23 minutes is about right to allow for 3 7-minute speeches with a little bit of transition and introduction in between. And if I have 3 speakers, then I'll want to have 3 evaluators as well. And my 3 evaluators can be allowed about 9 minutes of talk time on the agenda. So these are tools that are supposed to help you plan out how the meeting is organized. So there are roles, there are notes, and then there's also this concept of an editable note, which is used often for things like a theme and word of the day. And what I mean by editable is, I mean, it can be edited on the front end of the website. So it can be edited by somebody who doesn't necessarily have editor rights or admin rights, but they are organizing that particular meeting. They can make a few changes. So I just changed the number of speakers and evaluators to both be 3. And when I go out and look on the website, on the front end, we should see 3 speakers and 3 evaluators as signed up or available for people to sign up for. So now if I wanted to change my standard meeting template, my standard model of how my typical meeting runs, then I can go up to the top, zoom in here a little bit more. No, not that much. Under edit RSVP event, one of the options is edit template. So rather than edit the individual meeting. And this will, again, open up in the editor. In the standard template, there is a block up top that says click to get help. So it gives you a little bit of explanation here and says that there are more details that we can see on the WordPress for Toastmasters website. So trying to provide some help in context if you're confused. Let's see, there was an editable note there, and then there are also just boilerplate notes that you include on the agenda that talk about what the general evaluator does, or what maybe some activity that starts at the beginning of the meeting. Sergeant of Arms, gavels the meeting to order and leads the national anthem, something like that. And so these are just, so these cannot be as easily edited on the front end, but you can edit them here if you are an editor or administrator of the site, and you can associate some time with them. So if the activity is 5-minute break, then the text says 5-minute breaks, and you allow 5 minutes on the agenda for that. So it's trying to make sure that it's supposed to help you too sort of think through, have you allowed enough time for different activities on the agenda? So it's supposed to help you as a planning tool, but also to communicate to people how long can they afford to take for table topics. And if they get to the end of a certain block of time and they haven't wrapped up table topics, well, the meeting's probably going to run over. Somebody better interrupt them and say, well, we've got to cut it off there. So we can edit things in here. We can also add them. So if I click on any of these items, often I find it convenient to use this little menu here with the 3 dots. You can say insert before or insert after. And it says, what kind of block do I want to choose? What kind of content block do I want to choose? And I could include a paragraph or an image. You could have images in your agenda if you want to. But if it's another role that I want to add, I can just type in the word role, or I could type in the word Toastmasters and it would show me all the available Toastmasters related items. So now I'm just getting a blank block. The role hasn't been set, so I can choose one of these standard things. Say humorist. So that's not standard in every club, but humorist is one of the things that's available through the agenda. So I can add that, and I can decide where that should go on the agenda. So we'll have the humorist speak right before we do table topics. And actually, we've had some problems with long-winded humorists. So let's add some time associated with that. Let's say that the humorist gets 3 minutes. And if they're not done in 3 minutes, we're going to give them the hook. So if I update this, I will actually get a prompt up at the top of the page saying, if you want this to be reflected on the live agendas, we need to go through this process of creating or updating events based on the template. So just changing the template doesn't automatically change anything out on the public website, because we might not want to do that. Maybe we've spent a lot of time customizing the special meeting for next week. We don't want to overwrite that and throw away all that work, but we do want to update some of our other events. So when I go to this create update screen, it will show me a projection of the dates that are already on the agenda and future dates that haven't been added yet. It's going to show me that some of them have been modified independently, because this one I started editing a couple of minutes ago. So I could say check all, except for this one, because I'm doing something special this week, so I don't want to overwrite that. But otherwise, I'm going to update everything to be the same going forward. And now if I go out and view any of these that I have modified based on the template, we should see humorist is in here before topic master. So that's the idea of how these things get together. As Joseph was showing, I mean, there are lots of different ways that you can remix things based on the way you want your club to operate or the way your club does operate. It's meant to be flexible. I guess there's some complexity that comes along with making it flexible, but it gives you the option to change some of those things. And I did want to point out too that one of the options that I recommend using in this time of online and hybrid meetings is to show the time zone and to allow people to see what this translates into their own time zone. And it'll actually do this automatically if it detects that you're in a different time zone. Maybe Mexico City isn't different from me. Let me see. Except for Los Angeles. Okay. I told you it was gonna do or not do something that I was trying to demo at some point during the meeting. I'm not quite sure why it's not showing the translation.
We call
You
it
have to refresh the page.
No, you're not supposed to have to refresh the page. It's supposed to be a nice little JavaScript thing that it does it.
We call
All
it
right.
around here. It tends to happen straight across the board. And that's why we decided to do a practical guide, because when you're on your own and these things happen, you think maybe you broke it. So it's nice.
Well, no, yeah, that's right. And and I, sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming that when lots of people are coming to me telling me that things are need to be changed or fixed or whatever. But I'd rather know if you get some weird error message or something's just not working. I'd rather know so that we can get it fixed for everybody. Dr. Byrne, what was your question?
Yes. Can you demonstrate something? We know that in many people that are doing the program using this site, they are not getting credit for things they could get credit for. And the perfect example is the Toastmaster of the day, if done properly, should be able to have an evaluator and get credit for running an online meeting. And is there a way of putting it into the agenda as a subheader that an evaluation and being able to pull from the club who wants to do the evaluation for doing an online meeting and have that pop up the same way we have the evaluation sheet show up on the regular rolls?
Well, with the pathways leading an online meeting project, do they have you do a speech about your experience?
It's evaluating the activity. So they have an evaluation for doing a speech, active listening, doing a blog, doing a podcast. There are a whole bunch of different things.
But a lot of those things still have a speech associated with them. And so I've tended to build support for pathways in through the speech activities. I probably should take a closer look at the one you're talking about and see if I can address that.
Manage online meetings, that's the elective, and I understand what is being asked. For some persons, they do it as the running of the entire meeting because it's online. So the Toastmaster of the day is actually responsible for the meeting and therefore doing that project. Somebody evaluates how they ran the meeting. So they're Toastmaster of the day, but they're doing it as managed an online meeting. So they have the objectives that they have to fill, etc., based on the Toastmasters program, but it's Toastmaster of the day. With active listening, it is the same premise, but instead of Toastmaster of the Day, it's Table Topics Master.
Well, I would say, that not 100% of everything needs to be handled through software. Either, some of it can be handled through communication. And so maybe because you want somebody to be evaluated on their performance as Toastmaster of the Day, you add an additional evaluation slot for that meeting that you're going to get somebody assigned to, and you explain that in a note at the top of the agenda. There might be something that I could do to address it through the software, but I think I consider the software to be a tool for helping you communicate and helping you plan. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do other things outside of that. When you email out the agenda, there's always an opportunity to add a note. You can add a note directly into the agenda document as well. So you can address some of those things, without it necessarily being 100% baked into the program. Let's see. I think Joni said something about the planned absences too. Was something that you wanted me to address?
Yes, please, because on Bitly it drives me absolutely up the wall because I have to go onto something else to sign up to say that I'm going to attend the meeting, and then I have to get the Eventbrite link. Too many steps. So how do I do planned absences?
So it's actually another custom block that you can include on your agenda, and I think I was going to have some Ismail run through the sign up process in a minute. I think it's one of the options in the setup wizard actually, where you can specify that you want that to be on your agenda at the beginning, but you can also add it manually. So let me show you how you would add it manually if you had one of these sites that you inherited or that didn't have that. Something screwy there. Actually, this one has it. So it's just a little block that you can add to your agenda. And so if I had to choose it, I would go Toastmasters. Let's see, Toastmasters absences. And optionally, this could display the results on the agenda, but it's largely for you to be able to see it online. And when I say show on the agenda, that's the idea of the printable agenda format.
You're not sharing the screen.
So, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not sharing this. I wasn't sharing the screen through that whole thing.
No.
Okay. I'm so sorry. That is not the first time or the 10th time that I've made that mistake. All right. I scrolled down to the bottom, and here is this little content block. If it wasn't there, I could add it. So I would choose. So this little plus sign is what I use to add a new content block, and if I search under Toastmasters, one of the options is Toastmasters absences, and that's that little placeholder there. When I view this on the public website, and this is for somebody who is logged in, we'll see this. It will say, do you under planned absence, I can choose to say just for this meeting or until a certain date, I will be absent from the club. I can do it for myself, or I can do it for somebody else. So we can say that Clara is going to be away until October 5th. And then if I view this on the website, we'll see that here, that she's under the list of planned absences. If there's a way of removing yourself or removing the other person if their plans change, and actually they will be available. But part of what Joseph was showing you earlier is if you go to assign somebody to a role or send one of these little suggestion notes, it should show her there is one of the planned absences. Let's say, wait a minute. I just did that. It's not. Oh, there it is. Okay, so it shows me that she's down as a planned absence. So I'm not going to pester her. I'm going to pick on somebody who I think expect to actually be there. So that's the concept there is to allow people to commit to being at a meeting, but also give you an easy way of signaling that they're going to be away for a specific meeting, or they're going to be away for a few weeks, so that you don't keep pestering them. Let's see. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through once myself the process of setting up a website, and then I'm going to ask Ismail to do it for us. So I warned him about this a little while ago. He's been patiently waiting here. So one more. Let's see. I see something in the chat. Is that something I need? Okay, we'll get that later. All right. So, Joni, you already have a password for online presenters. Anybody else here? We're still a select audience who have passwords for this website. But if you already have a password, you would go to the website and you would just go down here and it would say welcome. And do you want to create a club website or a district website? I'm going to start supporting district websites more. So if it's a club website, it's going to show you options for a club. And down here is where we can say that we meet every Thursday at 7 p.m. And it tries to determine what time zone you're in. But you can customize this. And of course, online clubs wind up being in all sorts of different time zones, but pick one to be sort of the reference point, and then the website should be able to show some time zone translations. So I'm just going to put in the name of my club. It's my very special club. Oh, jeez. Whoops. I didn't mean to do that. Hold on. Let me see if I can back up here. A very special club 2. Normally I would put in what district I'm in and my club number if I know it. And we put in the information about our meeting schedule. And down here, we can choose a design. So this is the design that Joseph's Club is using. It can actually be several different featured images up top. There are lots of different variations you can do even within one of these designs. This is a nice dramatic one. So we'll choose that. And we'll say submit. And I'll say website created. Please wait while it sets up a few things. And then it will come back with some basic instructions. And a copy of this also gets emailed off to you. So hopefully that should have just shown up in my inbox. So your website awaits at my very special 2.toastmost.org. Now, by the way, if you want to register a website domain for your club, that can be assigned to your Toastmasters site. It's just an extra step. But particularly when you're initially testing, it's just .toastmost.org. And a lot of clubs like Tragic Comedy are having perfectly fine success using a Toastmost.org address. But districts particularly tend to have their own registered domain and would want to have that associated with the website. So it gives you a few instructions. It says here's where you can go to visit, and here's this club website wizard that you can use to finish setting up your site or to move through the process. And so when I click on the website wizard, it tries to ask me some questions about how I organize my club and my meetings. So how do you structure your meeting? You know, how long do you take for welcome and introductions? How long do you give the Toastmaster the day to do introductions? What are some of your other supporting roles? You might have a different list than this. And you're going to customize this stuff more later through the agenda editor, but this is trying to get you off to a reasonable start. So how many speakers and evaluators do you have at a typical meeting? You can change that. You can, if you do table topics, you can say before speakers, after speakers, before evaluators, at the end of the meeting, or no table topics. And you can specify the amount of time that's allowed for that. So the idea is to walk you through some of these basic choices up front. Here's the include member absences widget. So it's turned on by default. Include officers listing on the agenda, turned on by default, but you don't have to do it that way. Invite guests to register on the home page. Well, you know, Joseph has that, my clubs have that. You might decide you don't want to use that. So you can, and then show time zone, recommended particularly for online or hybrid clubs. And I will say next, and it will take some of those choices that I've just made and apply them to my boilerplate template. On the next screen, there's an opportunity for you to say what your officer role is. So if you're just the webmaster and that's your role, that you can leave it at that. But if you're actually the VP of Education, you can put that in here. You can invite in a few other people right up front so that other officers can come in and take a look. So you might want to do that. So I would just add the name, the email. I could put in their officer role, and I could say whether I want them to also be an administrator or to have one of these other roles, or just to be a basic member. And this is where we can have email distribution lists. So you can have an address that people can write to, and their message gets distributed to all the other members. You want to tell people to be polite about that, to use it for club business. Social invitations are going to be welcome if somebody starts spamming the list. There are ways that you can shut them down if you need to. So you can go through those defaults, and then it gives you some instructions of what to do next. Edit your home page, and customize some of these other things to the agenda, and try and give some help articles along the way. Now, what I want to do now, this is the exciting part of the meeting. This is where Ismail takes over, and we're going to invite him to share his screen and walk through the process of how he would do it as somebody who's coming in new to this, to go through that same process that I just showed you as a new person to the platform. So he's actually going to wind up signing up for the email list and creating a member account along the way.
Let's see how easy this can actually be. Let's see. So let's go share my screen. And hopefully everyone can see my screen.
There we go.
Okay, so I'm here at the Toastmost, sign up, and registration has been done.
You want to go back to the home page, please. Just go to toastmost.org. If you scroll down a little bit, you should see. There we go.
Website setup.
Yep.
All right.
You're just going to put in your email, your name.
Email down. It's going to be a club. Name of the club is Level Up.
Okay.
District 39. Oops. Don't know. That's what Road, California. And it is every day, Wednesday. We do meet at 7 p.m. And that is Pacific time. It did it automatically for me, so that's a good one. And let's say I like.
Somebody have a bunch of noise in the background. Joni, are you able to?
Is that that humming noise? If it's a humming noise,
Yeah.
it's my computer. It's old
Okay.
as
All right.
it's old as
Well,
molasses and it's trying to keep up.
All right. We'll just have to deal. That's fine.
So you can hear the humming.
Not now, actually.
No.
You want to?
Oh, okay.
Well, we heard a little bit, but that's all right.
So let's say I choose the same as, but can these be customized? I mean, if
Yes,
I
they
wanted
can.
to upload my own image, okay.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. So for the time being, and if I wanted, well, we'll look at it. We'll do this one first. Let's say submit. All right. So then now I should go back to my email, and I should have something there. Correct.
Correct. Yeah.
Let's refresh my page. And should I be looking in spam or something? That's it.
Well, I would hope not, but
I would hope not, but
you can check.
there is no spam.
Okay.
Nope, bunch of spam. Go back to my inbox. Now I just see the Toastmasters. Refresh one more time. Still not seeing the email. Maybe I did something wrong now. Okay, go back.
Did you submit?
I hit the submit. It says
Yeah, no, it should be
check your
working.
it says check your email, and that will allow you to confirm your subscription to WordPress Toastmasters mailing list.
All right.
And give it a minute.
Well, so much for showing how easy it is.
No,
Well, at least
it is.
you pre-warned us that we were going to have an issue. So
Yeah.
I'm refreshing.
Well,
that makes me wonder, did I input the correct email? I'm pretty sure I did.
yeah. Let me.
Should I try this one more time?
Yeah, you can try it one more time. I'm gonna check something while you're doing that.
All right, let's see. IC Perez for Homes at Gmail. That's in there. It's in there. That's capital. Maybe it doesn't like that email. Maybe I should change. I do have two emails.
Okay, well, that could be worth trying, but it should not be a problem. But
let's try two.
oh, yeah.
39 club location. No.
see.
Regular schedule is every day. Time set 7.
No, let's see. No, that's not good.
Pacific. Choose this one and submit. All right, so I'm take me back to my calendar. Go into live.com. All right, here it is. Confirm your email. Toastmost. So
Yeah.
it didn't like my Gmail. It liked my Microsoft.
That's weird.
Let's see. Go back to
Because I
Gmail.
did my.
It's still not in here. So let me check. Refresh it one more time. So it didn't like my Gmail, but it did like my Outlook. All right. So then click to confirm. All right. Can't create it. This one's super. Is that mine?
All right. So you're gonna want to copy that password.
Right.
And
visit leveluptoastmasters.org or
level up Toastmasters. Yeah, we'll click on Club Website Wizard because that's really where we're gonna. Yeah.
So click the wizard.
And
I don't want to remember it, so okay.
hey,
So I'm in.
All right.
All right, and let's save that. I'll be able to change it. So the first thing I would do actually is I would want to change the password, but
You can do. Let's do that later. Let's
okay.
Save that.
Yeah, let's do that when it's not being recorded and everybody can see it.
Well, that's a good point too.
Yeah. Okay.
But why don't you just go through the process of trying to what you would do for customizing your agenda?
All right. Welcome. Introduction. 5 minutes on Toastmasters of the day. Introduces I don't know, 5, 7. We can change that later. Number of speakers, change that later. It's fine. Type my table. Topic masters. That's fine. Type aloud. Right. Sure. Okay. Let's say I just agree with everything here. Say next. My officer's role. I am the president.
Okay. And if you know the email is somebody else, you might want to invite in like one other person or something.
Now, is that I would, but is if I create this, is this because I'd like to set it up first and then invite them?
Sure. Yeah, you can invite them later.
Okay.
It's just giving you the option if you have somebody else who would sort
Right,
of.
because I would want my VP of Relations and my VP of Education to have access to this since they're the ones changing the agenda on a regular basis.
Right.
But I want to be able to explain it to them so they don't have to go through this whole spiel that I went through.
Okay. So why don't you just scroll down to the bottom and click next then. Okay, so this is where it gives you some instructions about what you might want to do next. So this is a little bit choose your own adventure, but I'm trying to steer you towards things.
Editor. Now, is this using? I know a little bit about WordPress. Are we using Elementor for?
No, we're using plain vanilla WordPress.
Okay.
So WordPress came out with this thing called the block editor a while ago, and that's what I talk about, the different kinds of content blocks. There are some clubs who have chosen to use something like Elementor. To me, that just adds more complexity on top of things.
So now we're here at the homepage.
Yeah, here you are editing your homepage, and it gives you a little propaganda about why the block editor is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is some of the stuff that I tried to go over with y'all.
Okay.
And so it's It's put in a little bit of text. We meet every Wednesday at 7 p.m. For some reason, it's got the number there. So you probably want to put in what, PST, I guess, right? Or Pacific time, maybe would be better.
Okay.
And visit as a guest. That's just a little widget that appears on the front end. So you sort of see a preview of it. It's a placeholder for that widget that is supposed to invite people to RSVP for your next meeting. And I usually show several additional meetings, including in addition to the next one, because maybe they're interested, but they're not available this week. They're available next week, right?
So I
So
refresh the page so that this matches this. Because you have the
Well,
PST. I made the change here, but it didn't change.
yeah.
Yeah.
But up there, you're just editing text. For some reason, it's we can let's change that again in a minute. We'll look at how that's set up on the in the WordPress settings. But
So let's say I did some changes here.
yeah. So
How
I
can
mean, if you say you wanted to take out that image, you just click on that image and hit delete.
just replace this image here.
Well, that's actually a screenshot of the user interface. Maybe that's too confusing, actually.
Remove featured
Um,
image.
But if you were to
So if I wanted to see the site right now, can I?
yeah,
That's the visit the site here or level up.
Actually, where under where up top it says level up right next to my sites.
Yep.
So this is where you can toggle between this administrative view, this
So if I hold-
dashboard, and the front end.
So then this is what it looks like.
This is what it looks like as of now. And so there's several featured images that I provide sort of canned. And so if you don't like that blue image up top, why don't I show you how to change that?
Okay. So I'm back over here,
well,
the editor. No,
well,
that's not.
Yeah.
Here's your setup.
Or
Edit page right here.
at the top of any page. Well, okay, this is the editor, but at the top of any page that you're viewing on the public site, you should see an edit option that'll get you back into the editor for that page. But that's okay. All right. Well, maybe I'll go back to doing show and tell of my own for a moment.
Okay.
So
I got in, so I'm able to play with it. So
yeah, you got in, you got started. But why don't I just go back through this, because I think it's maybe easier for me to show some of these things than to talk you through them. So if you could stop screen sharing for a moment.
Okay.
All right. So I'm gonna go find Level Up. And I do have these super admin rights. Let's see, I have to switch back to my super duper account here. If I go in and edit the page, so I'm going to take this over from Ismail. And this was just an image that was included to try and give some instruction and context. I probably should keep the instructions and the content separate. So when I'm in the editor, I talked about the properties for different blocks, which are displayed in the sidebar when you have that block separated. Now this area of the right sidebar that shows the properties of different things, in some views that might be hidden. So this little gear icon makes sure that I can see that. So there are the properties of the different blocks. So I go from a paragraph to a heading to this little placeholder widget for upcoming events. Those are all settings for different blocks. I also have properties for the page. So page and block are two little toggles up here in the corner. And if I scroll down, one of the options is featured image. And this is actually one of the standard Toastmasters International image library images of people doing public speaking. But I could replace this with any other image. Usually for that big featured space at the top of the page, you would pick a large, beautiful image. So if I want to replace this with something else, I'm going to go to replace image, and it would allow me to choose from my media library, but that's the only image in my media library. But I can select from my computer, and let me see. See what I have here. So this is actually an image that I used for my Future of Toastmasters workshop, trying to show the idea of different doors, different futures that you might go into. So suppose I wanted to use that. I would say select that. It's going to upload it. I do set featured image, and I update my page. When I go out and view that, now I'll see that, and it appears this in this particular design, this particular WordPress theme. These images all appear behind a blue screen, and actually this one doesn't work very well because it was trying to show you that one door was a different color, and we're not even seeing that here. So that wouldn't be a good choice, but you can experiment and go back and forth until you find something that does look good and does represent your website well.
Eliminate that blue screen, though, right?
It's actually specific to this theme. What you might want to do is look at what would this website look like. Maybe you really want to use that featured image. So then you might look at changing to a different theme. And so wait a minute, I should back up a little bit. So I'm on the website, and there's this option here that says customize, and it may be hard to see through the screen sharing, but it's this black bar across the top. One of the options is customize, and from customize this is where I would come to customize the menu at the top of the website, because I've added a different page, and I want that page to appear on the menu. I can do that from here, but I can also change the whole look of the site by looking at these other themes. So think of a theme as a collection of different templates that set up a site. So a theme might have one template for the home page and a different one for blogs. So this is how it would look like in this maroon colored version. So it gives us a little preview here. This works for most, but not all of the designs. So this is basically the same thing that I use for online presenters. Here's how that featured image would appear in that format. This one also has an option of a header image that appears on every page. So there are a number of different options.
But I could search other themes and just put this template to it.
Right. So there are thousands of WordPress themes. I mean, I have a handful that I make available that are Toastmasters branded. and to the extent that I can recruit other designers who can work with me, they may be able to contribute other designs that could be included here. I mentioned customizing the menu, which is something that's often important. So for example, Joseph showed you that he had built out this whole set of pages describing the different roles and how they work in his club. So if I want to add an item to the menu, I can go in here and I can choose from my existing pages. I don't have many pages in here, but I actually can create one just from this view. It's just going to create a blank page for me. So we'll say this is going to be the Toastmasters roles page, and it will just add it down the end. And I can say that that's going to go after the calendar. So I do have some drag and drop in here. And within Toastmasters roles, I'm going to have a general page that talks about Toastmasters roles. Then I'm going to have a more specific Toastmaster of the day page. So I'll add that. And so far, these are just blank pages. But when I drag this one up, I can indent it a little bit. And that will actually become then a sub menu under that. So let's see how that displayed. So there's Toastmaster roles, and then there's Toastmaster of the day. And then under that, there might be speaker, topics master, so forth. And again, by doing it that way, I just created a bunch of blank pages that I would need to go back and flesh out, which is stuff that's, kind of okay to do when it's just you experimenting with the site and finding your way around. Maybe more normally what you would do is you would go to new and page, and you would, create that page explaining what the topics master does, and you would add your words and your images here. And then you might do a whole series of these. Again, you have to strike your own balance about how elaborate to make this, but you can make it very rich. And so now that I've created my topics master page, I can go back into the menu, and when I select this and want to add an item, I'll see the topics master is another available thing that I can drag up into this hierarchy. That's kind of the way that I would work it, to sort of fleshing out the website and including more content in it.
I could switch out that logo as well, correct?
The Toastmasters logo is kind of baked in there. Just
So
because.
Can I add the level up? Like our level up has its own logo as well.
Well, that's actually a somewhat, according to Toastmasters International, officially, clubs aren't supposed to have their own logos. We're supposed to use the Toastmasters logo. I mean, I don't know. My home club actually has a logo that it's used. Don't turn me on to the grand police.
But if we want our publications, I don't put like we can have both.
Right. You can. I think having both is probably the way to go. Is to have the Toastmasters logo in there to sort of show respect for that, and then feature your other logo. And so, let me show you an idea of how I might do that. Is let's see. I'm gonna suppose that I want to include my logo up top here, my club logo. So say I want to include image, and what am I going to grab to be? Oh, well, here's a silly image. so if I wanted to, if this was my logo that I wanted to include here, or actually, why don't I use there's an icon that I've been using as my Toastmost logo. Oops, let me find that. So suppose I wanted to include this logo prominently up top. I might just upload that, and we'll use the relatively small thumbnail image size of that, and I'll just say I want this to be aligned right at the top of the page so that I can use that. So over here, oh, PST stuff didn't get staved. This is more text. So we could still have that logo featured up top, and there are ways that we could bake it in so that it was on every page too. But here's the idea of my logo. Let's see. I did want to go back to the time zone display. So if you go into settings, one of the basic settings. Oh, how did that happen? So
Los Angeles, it would be Los Angeles.
Yeah, Los Angeles. See, America. And so it does it by city because we have all these different variations in when time zones change. So you basically pick a city that's near you. If I go back out on the website, we should see that the time zone is correct, I hope. So yes, PDT now. And that's why I don't like to use PDT or PST, because depending on the time of the year, it keeps changing.
Yeah.
And actually, this is what I was trying to show earlier, is it's detected that I'm not in Pacific time zone. So it shows me what the equivalent was. I have to stay up to 10 o'clock if I want to join your club. And if it's detected this wrong, I can say that no, I'm actually, where am I? Let's go someplace exotic. Go to Barbados. So this is what time it looks like. It's pretty much the same time. Let's go to South Africa. So if I get up at 4 a.m. and I'm in South Africa, then I can attend your meeting. So these are things, this is because I am involved with a club that has members from Australia and Europe who make different accommodations to meet at our time. And apparently daylight savings time, when it flops in one country versus another, makes it even more inconvenient sometimes for people to attend, or more convenient. Could go either way, I guess. Let's see. So we're coming to the end of the 3-hour block allowed for this, which is a long time to spend on talking about this stuff. I hope it's been useful, but we should hear some questions, maybe from somebody who hasn't had a chance to ask a question, or Nick asked a question early on. I know he mentioned he was having some frustrations with the software. Anybody who'd like to jump back in here? Nick?
Oh, I'm learning a lot, and I'm good for now, question-wise.
Okay.
I do believe I can help you with answering Nick, though. Nick, the reason it was probably coming out to you was he didn't change the thumbnail. what your question sounded like was you didn't put full page or you had it by default on thumbnail. And because you didn't change that, it would come up as a thumbnail. This is why we do the practical guide. You can see that, oh, you have to go there and change the offense. Because I do stuff like that for myself all the time.
Yeah. But I think it's nice that WordPress does do a certain amount of that resizing for you automatically. I mean, you wind up with, you know, your iPhone takes incredibly high resolution pictures. So if you upload one of those images, you wind up with these huge versions on the website that are actually, you know, not necessarily appropriate for embedding in a web page. But sometimes it's useful to be able to have those to go back to them when you need them. But you can select the medium size or the thumbnail size, or you know, on some of these formats, there's an option to sort of like show an image huge, you know, full screen beyond the normal margins of the page. And so that can be kind of cool as an effect. I think I have that on one of the demo sites that I could show you. But meanwhile, if people have other questions,
Yeah, only had the one. Are there widgets for, let's say, adding a timer clock or adding a pop-up, a call to action? Somebody visited the page, they're about to leave, will pop up. Are there,
well, let's see.
or Zoom pop-up, I mean, a Zoom integration, so we don't have to, that would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Okay, I'll tell you what my practice has been at both Online Presenters and Club Awesome in the online and hybrid era, is that I ask for people to register, and then the confirmation message includes the Zoom link. And I prefer to do that rather than having them register through Zoom. So there's a Zoom calls it the personal meeting link. So it's one that does not change from week to week. That you can include in your confirmation message. You know, you set that up in the in your standard template, so that people get that as part of the confirmation message. They get the Zoom link. I do have a pop-up for signing up for the email list that you can turn on. And actually, email is actually something that I've done a ton of work on lately, and particularly something that I want to market to districts so that they could have an email marketing capability built into this package too. Maybe I can show you that briefly in a moment. I said I would take time for questions, so I don't want to be dodging the question. There are also a ton of WordPress plugins for doing pop-ups that can display anything that you might imagine. And so
Hey, that's what I'm asking. So I know there's a bunch of pop-ups, but does your template that you're created, is that going to block any of those, or is this?
No.
Okay.
Well, the way it works is Toastmost has a number of these optional plugins that do special functions available, and then I allow you to request others that you've learned about in your research or whatever. As a site administrator, you can't add software to the website. I wouldn't want people to do that because they might add something that's, you know, bad for website security or whatever. But as long as it's something that's has decent reviews and so forth, and quality associated with it, I'm happy to add those things. I also, at one point, I showed some site statistics using a plugin called Jetpack, which is kind of a Swiss Army knife plugin that includes lots of different features, including I like to have the buttons at the bottom of a blog post that say share to Facebook, share to Twitter. You can turn those things on easily with Jetpack. There are other ways of doing it. but that's one of them. So, you
Yeah,
know,
like I
think
noticed.
some
I
people
noticed
run away
also that-
screaming because there's too many choices, but I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
I was saying that there's also like on tragic comedy on his website where he had the roles for each president under his members. When you clicked on it, at least what I seen, you clicked on it, it didn't show a picture of the actual president, or the images were too small. If I wanted to make that a little bit bigger for, you know, my VP of education, and maybe add, if I wanted to add her email directly or something, I could still do that.
Well, let me, because Joseph does it a little bit different than I do it on my club websites. I hope nobody's been counting Oz during this meeting, because I am notorious.
Don't worry, I'd have been dead a long time ago.
Yeah. Let's say. So you can set it up to have a bunch of this stuff. The member has the option of making it publicly viewable, because they might want to use it as another little place that they promote themselves and get people to come to their LinkedIn page and their personal websites as well. So I can set it so that it's visible to anybody. And actually right now I'm in this website as the administrator account. So the administrator account is not actually a member of this site, but if I view this as me, I can do over here. Let's say, hold on a moment. Something's being slow.
David, just one question. Where you can go and see what you post here in this dashboard? Like if you post something, you make a new post. How can you go and see it from here?
Okay,
From
let me circle back to that in just a moment. Just to finish what I was talking about with the members, when I'm logged in here, or when any other member is logged in here, they can see my phone number, they can see my email address. In general, people don't necessarily want to have their email address published on the web, you know, because it generates some extra spam. But for other members, they can go in and they can see this information. That's if you choose to have a members page in this format on your website. But there is also something on the back end where I can go to member list, and I can look up somebody's phone number or email if I want to get in touch with them. I should blur this out on the replay, I guess. But so Amina was asking if I create a new blog post or a new item, where does it go? Well, I mean, the beauty of a blog is it's sort of self-organizing. Every time I post a new item, it's going to go to the top of the listing on the blog. So that's what a blog is. It's a chronologically organized list of articles. Now, if I create a page, that's different. It doesn't automatically show up anywhere. So the page is where I was showing that that I could add it to the menu. But I could also have a page that I have my semi-secret page. advertised anywhere. But I've put a little bit of information just for some special audience on here. So I can go out and view it on the website and send it off, copy and paste this link into an email and say, I added the information on the website and you can see it here. But if I want everybody to be able to see that, that's where I would go in and I would want to edit the menu so that everybody can find the super secret page, which would be kind of counterproductive, wouldn't it? It wouldn't be super secret anymore. But polish your presentation skills. So this assumes I can find it. Let's see. Search for, okay, here's the semi-secret page. So I could add that to the menu and it's just going to add it onto the very end of the menu if I go by default, but I can also put it under the video section, for example, here. So yeah, when you create a page, it's sort of like nobody knows about it until you tell them. And then that's kind of true of your website in general. You're creating this website. Hopefully you're advertising it in search engines and advertising it on social media, but you still have to remind people that it exists. And that's where you want to do your outreach by social media, as well as by email. And so I wanted to talk about email. Let me use as an example.
One last question, David.
Sure.
Earlier you said about the contact number, the email, and the address. If we don't want to show the address like in a landing page, is there like specific options that we can go to and take it out, or is that like another form?
No, that's so every member can come in and edit their own profile in the system. And so if there's a phone number in here and you don't want that phone number to appear to anybody, whether they're logged in or not, you could just take it out. There's also a section with some
for the address
privacy options. So let's say check to allow name, social media links, and photo description you'd be described to be displayed publicly. Also show email publicly is an option here. So there are a number of options in terms of privacy preferences and so forth. I did want to show briefly the email capability. Well, let's take this as an example. This is the special workshop that we have coming up on the future of online Toastmasters. If I want to create an email to send out to my mailing list, I can go to New, and RSVP email is one of the options. And I'm going to say that I want to send out an email that embeds this event in the email. And it's going to set it up in this template that has a little bit of branding for us on it. And I might want to add a little bit of text before. We're just seeing sort of a placeholder for where that, let's see, wait a minute. Where that event will be displayed. So So I'm going to publish this. And when I go to view it, I don't view it in the regular website format. I view it in this special email template. So this has all the information from the body of the event, plus an RSVP now button. And I can click to send this out to my whole email list, or I could just send a preview to myself, which is what I'll do now, just to make sure it looks okay. And so there is this whole email marketing capability that's baked in here too. I think I have it so that clubs can send up to 1,000 emails a month, and there's some upgrade pricing. So for districts, I charge them more money for a website, but I include up to 10,000 email sends a month. And so here's my email. So it has a little bit of formatting, a little bit of background color that you can set, and it has our branding at the bottom, plus the stuff that needs to be in there about how do people unsubscribe if they no longer want to be on your email list. So that's all baked in there. And part of the advantage of that versus using something like MailChimp is if you've invested a lot of time in learning how to work with editing things in WordPress, maybe you don't want to switch to learning a whole different editor for MailChimp. So this allows you to use most of the same basic techniques for formatting your content that you use for blog posts and web pages, and carry that over into formatting email. And there's some stuff in there too where you can set the background color, and you can set it to be one of the Toastmasters preferred colors. There's Loyal Blue and True Maroon and Happy Yellow. Those are straight out of the brand manual. So you can make it some other color too, but we steer you down the stay out of trouble with Toastmasters path by default. All right, well, I think we're close to wrapping up here, but that doesn't mean that I can't answer a couple more questions or address something that maybe we've missed. Sounds like folks are good, at least for now. I mean, really the best way to learn about this is to experiment with it yourself, to explore on your own. Sign up for that free trial Toastmost subscription, and then see if it works for you. And I hope it does. As I said, I hope that some of you come away not just as users of the software, but evangelists who are going to go out and train at the local TLI and tell people this is what you should be using if you want a modern website that doesn't look crappy on your phone, and has some automation built into it that tries to make things easier and tries to fit into this world of online and hybrid clubs. So thanks, everybody. Thank you, Johnny, for inviting me.
You are most welcome, David, and thank you for sharing your expertise. But before we go, since we still have them here, are we good? Do we have any more questions?
I just want to ask something, please. Are we going to have the record of this? Because I was like trying to do it at the same time, but sure. I really get lost.
Oh, that's the beauty of all of the trainings. I tell everyone, I don't get it the first time. I have to do it when you tell me. Follow and do it wrong the second time. Follow it again and do it wrong the third time. And then the fourth time after I've replayed it, then I do it right. So don't worry. Everyone who registered and came to the training will actually receive an email of the actual training. Mistakes and all. David, I don't make things beautiful. It's practical. If it happens, that's how it got showed. And I will send that to you in your email. our next training that is coming up is how to put power in PowerPoint. But before I get to that, it's a series of trainings that I